So welcome to the June 2024 Design Review Committee meeting. I'm going to call the roll to confirm that our DRC members are present. Omari Davis.
Here.
Robert Dudka, Alex Foster, and Andrew Wenchel are all excused. The DRC meetings are held in person and streamed simultaneously to allow commissioners, applicants, and the public to attend online. For members of the board and applicants joining us this evening, if board members or applicants lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us via the dial-in phone option. Applicants, please keep your devices muted and your video turned off until your item is under review. When called upon to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located on your meeting command bar. The command bar will appear if you move your cursor down toward the bottom of your screen. We do not have the ability to unmute you. If you are dialing in by phone, press *6 to unmute. The meeting chat is active for participants who need technical assistance and should not be used for questions. The public may observe the meetings, but participation in the discussion is limited to applicants and members of the HALRB during this meeting. Public comment is welcome at the HALRB meeting. Information about signing up as a speaker or submitting a public comment for that meeting is available on the HALRB website. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. And with that, we will get started with our first item, which is at the Green Valley Pharmacy. So let me pull that up and share my screen. Looks like Mr. Maharme still has not joined us yet, but we can go ahead and get started discussing it. So let me zoom in. It's teeny. All right. So I know you'll remember this, Omari, but this project came forward to the HALRB last month for the bioretention planter. And there was a lot of discussion about this item, excuse me, and the HALRB decided that they wanted to request that the stormwater, hello, hi, that the stormwater planter.
Are you Michael?
Oh, hi. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So the bioretention planter has been relocated for the HALRB's request. So it used to be up here. Now it is in the back here. And I've got some measurements for you. They provided some extra measurements. Okay. But basically, it's going to be made of concrete. They provided an example over here of what it would probably look like. Okay. The wall heights vary because based off of what they've shown, it's taller here at the street and it gets lower at the back. And then the measurements are, it's 17.85 feet by 7.77 feet by 17.48 feet by 6.45 feet. So what are your initial thoughts, reactions to it? Andy sent me some thoughts that I'll share.
Okay. Initial thoughts were, I mean, I applaud them, moving it essentially out of the front where it was previously up in the corner. I also appreciate the submission of the materials. The materials look acceptable as well. I mean, I know we discussed some sort of like stucco finish, but I think that's probably not, that may not necessarily be the most practical or maybe even the best solution for that anyway. So I think what they've given us here, I think is acceptable. The fact that it's sort of like behind the building too also helps out too, keeps the rest of the more public facing sides of the building more visible. So I think overall, it's a great improvement. I'll leave it there.
He didn't really have any, so he thought that he just said that he felt that this was appropriate, yeah. And so I would assume would agree with the comments that you made. Okay. And I know he wasn't in attendance at the meeting, so he probably doesn't recall as much of the conversation around the original design for it. Yeah. But since it sounds like you find it to be appropriate,
Yeah.
then I think we'll move ahead with its approval.
Yeah.
Because it was conditionally approved on DRC review. And they will resubmit for permitting, and it'll be reviewed by stormwater management and all the other entities that are reviewing the various different projects. So, and Mr. Mohammed didn't join. I'll let him know.
Dylan, I think, yeah, great work, and he answered all our sort of concerns. Yep, well,
Okay, I will share all these comments. 1 second to just finish writing up my notes. Okay. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, and I know we have our applicants here, so if you'd like to join us at the table, please do so now.
Great. So you're Michael.
I am Michael, this is Lauren.
Hi.
And this is Mr. Davis.
How do you do? Hi, I'm Cindy. This is Gail. So this is the committee.
No, well, for now.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's more than just one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Today, yeah, it's me.
Oh, it's you.
It's me,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
terrific.
Committee today.
You're the
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah, I am the committee.
And
Excellent.
Mr. Davis is also, so the design review committee is a subcommittee of the HALRB, and Mr. Davis is a member of the design review committee, but he is also the chair of the HALRB.
Oh,
So,
terrific.
yeah, so
Fantastic.
he does a lot of volunteering for this.
And so are you, Lauren? What-
We're staff members with the
Oh,
Historic Preservation Program.
Gotcha.
So Michael is the staff liaison for the DRC and the HLRB, and I'm the principal preservation planner for the program. So we should be able to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic.
All right, so I will do a little explainer about your project.
Oh, good.
Please feel free to jump in and
Sure.
share any thoughts with Mr. Davis, and
Okay.
and we'll go from there. So I thought it would be best to help orient you to where the project is located. So this is their house. It has a very unique lot in that it is right at the corner of 23rd and North Fillmore Street. And the house is actually facing in this direction. So, so this is like technically the front of the house. It's facing out this way. So here are some other images that we've had of the house recently. And so the project is the installation of a accessibility walkway at the front of the house. So it is retroactive in nature. The project began and has subsequently stopped after I was in conversation with both Gail and Cindy. And so it hasn't been completed quite yet, but it's almost complete. And so essentially what's happened is this used to have steps that went down to this flagstone walkway and steps that lead up to the main street. There's no sidewalk outside of the house. It just kind of goes right into the street. And what they've done is
Well, the front door, you might have to say. This is how you get to the front door.
yes, yeah, right. But I meant that there's no sidewalk
Oh,
here along
right,
along the street.
right.
So this is a closer up drawing of the little. I think it's our screen. It doesn't look like that on my screen, but
Yeah,
anyways, these show the measurements of what was there before, and this is what is there now, and this is what it looks like. So basically, the stairs that were located here and here have been replaced with this walkway that allows accessibility and not having to use stairs anymore to get from the front entrance and this patio space down and then up again to get to the street and where cars are parked and the mailbox and all of that. So here are a couple other angles of the walkway. And it's poured concrete and like concrete masonry block that is going to be stuccoed. So this part hasn't been finished quite yet, but the intent is to put stucco on the outside. So this is an example And this is the bottom portion of the house. That's correct, right? This is
That's
the-
correct.
Yeah.
So on the right angle, that's what the stucco, the new stucco is. And on the left where it's sort of pinkish, that's the old. So that's going to be smoothed out. The whole purpose, well, one of the purposes of the project was to protect it from collapsing underneath because water's been infiltrating into the basement and
Right.
totally compromising the integrity of the building.
Building, where the steps were, the water was just going continuously going back behind the steps. And it's on that side wall there. And so in the process of, well, we actually did a little way around the building.
Oh,
And dug in down 10 feet and did all that business. to Rubberized,
Water.
oh.
yeah, waterproofing.
Waterproof.
While we were waterproofing that, we got to this point,
Mhm.
and we said, well, wait a minute, and I'll be 74. I know I look young and beautiful, but, the backs bother me, the heart's bother, kidneys. Rather than replace those steps and then.
To go down
10
4
years,
steps and across.
Go down and go up is really hard for me. So that was the incentive to finish it off. That's the whole incentive, to stop the water and to finish it off. So in my old age, I could.
Well, we plan on aging in place.
Aging in place, that we
Yeah.
like to stay in our home for as long as possible.
And we figured that this was a reasonable accommodation
Yeah,
to get to our front door without having to,
Yeah,
well, who knows if you have crutches, God forbid you have a wheelchair.
yeah.
So that's the whole,
so it's made to, the width of it is made to conform to, if you have to turn around with a wheelchair, then you can do that.
And the fencing that you see there was
Yeah.
there before, just at a little bit of a lower level because it was flush with the walkway
Oh.
originally. So now it's installed on top of the walkway.
Right.
And it's 4 feet in height and everything about the fencing is approvable at like the ACOA
Oh.
level for Maywood, but
Yeah.
because it's all part of this project, I just lumped it together.
Yeah, and I understand that, essentially, just looking at the before and after, essentially the footprint of kind of what's being paved is the same as
identical.
before, right? It's
Yeah,
relatively
it's just-
smooth, and then It's
It's
just been
it's
raised.
elevated.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only difference that
Yeah.
it was raised.
And there's a material change, but this is what it looks like now. And, because of its size and its location, it couldn't be reviewed under the ACOA process for Maywood. And we do have, in the Maywood design guidelines, they do talk about like accessibility structures and things like that. Anything that is going to be permanent has to have a COA. So for all of those reasons, it came forward for review with the HALRB.
Yeah. Smooth there, and then fencing, it says pretty much, and I think it's on a picture too, the fencing's the same height as fencing. unlike
That's
the
correct.
Yeah, it's 4
exterior.
footer.
This, I don't know if you could go back. Yes, it's exactly the height
Yeah, same size,
Yeah.
there.
it's
In
the-
other words, yes,
yeah,
exactly the same height
Right, because we
Right.
went
as the
through,
pre-existing.
yeah,
we went through this process to get fencing.
okay, sure,
Years ago,
yeah,
so we knew what we had to do.
this match.
And then we have to, still we're getting the tops. for
Yeah, the caps, yeah,
caps.
on the metal.
Oh, yeah, and they finish off the.
So we're waiting for those pieces, yeah.
And then I'll flip back to, so this is an older photo from earlier last year, but, I don't think that we would be able to see the walkway from the public right of way because of the fence around the property, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I guess one question is that, so the stairs so they went down to like the level, then there were more stairs that went down further.
Yes.
So those further stairs, those would be abandoned, I guess, at this point.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
kind of go. good
they're gonna be
downwards.
no more.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they're sitting,
Yeah,
But the fence for security. is
On the right.
yeah, on both sides, okay.
You're talking about,
Yeah,
you're talking
There.
about these
Oops.
yeah,
stairs
those,
here.
Those
the
guys,
ones that
yes.
goes,
Yeah.
yeah, they'll just be a bit.
The intention is not to get rid of them.
There.
Correct?
Yeah, I don't want to get rid of them unless you tell me I have to.
Yeah, see there.
You know.
Yeah,
And that's gonna be all stuccoed
right.
Yeah.
and uniform and then painted gray and, cleaned up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the logic of doing it, it sounds logical. to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, essentially. I mean, even, we all kind of hate that down to what being anyway. Yeah, I
It's
mean,
crazy.
I mean, no matter what shape you're in, it's like a pain.
On
What
a
is
bad
it?
day, it's
Yeah.
hard, and there are
Yeah.
friends that I have that are in their seventies and eighties.
Yeah,
That's my age group, and they can't even come to visit me because they can't do the steps.
yeah.
So it's been named Jones Bridge
It's
after
Joan.
my friend Joe can't come to visit me.
So it's Joan, now she can come
Yeah.
because it's Jones Bridge.
Bridge, yeah. There
That's funny.
you go.
Yeah. Did you bring that up? That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the only thing, I think would have been nice if it had been like flagstone finish there, honestly.
Yeah.
That's our only sort of.
Enter the flagstone. Oh, it's just too much money. You know how contractors
Yeah,
are.
yeah, no, I understand.
In Arlington, they say, oh my God, Arlington is double that.
Right, right.
It's too much money. We're gonna paint it. I went through a lot of trouble with the initial deck
Mhm.
because that was there and it was leaking.
it's over a
And
room.
it had flagstone on it.
Oh,
And I had to have the flagstone because it was leaking
mhm.
through the flagstone. I had to have all the flagstone in there.
Oh,
Then I put.
This was like 10 years.
That,
yeah,
I
yeah,
put that on, but now I got this
yeah,
kind of thing going on. I didn't know what to do with it.
yeah.
And the level was the right level to put a deck.
Oh,
So-
sure, yeah.
It was like flat to the front door.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the only thing I
yeah.
could do was to have it concrete fixed and then paint every week,
Oh, okay.
just to keep it.
See, because one would just be infiltrating
Yeah.
the room below.
Okay, yeah,
I mean, leaking, just like,
It's leaking like.
Yeah.
crap.
Which would then-
Yeah.
it would ultimately cave in the deck
yeah,
and affect the integrity of the building.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I see, okay. I see.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, there's the
See
deck.
that,
Beyond.
Underneath is a huge room.
oh, yeah, underneath,
Oh,
and it's all concrete.
Mhm.
Some guy must have been a concrete man,
Yeah,
back in the God knows what day.
yeah,
These were abandoned buildings at one time, from what I understand.
oh,
Yeah,
So that's going to be finished nicely. It's going to
Yeah.
look uniform.
it'll match essentially.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, that was my only comment, but I think otherwise, I think it's appropriate, and you can't see it from the street anyhow, I think.
That's right.
I think it all makes sense, so, my recommendation is to put this on consent. And then ask for.
Thank you.
It's nice to
and
find a
then we have
reasonable name.
dogs, and we have to have the fences for the dogs.
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah,
know, oh,
no, I understand.
yeah,
Oh, Got a fence around.
oh, God, yeah.
Have to let them out, so,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Wonderful.
So so you're consenting, so now,
So it's going on the consent agenda, which means that when it goes to the Historical Affairs and Landmark Review Board meeting, which is happening on June 20th, the consent agenda is one of the first things that the board votes on and block. And so basically, you and any other certificate of appropriateness items, applications that are on the consent agenda just get all voted for together with one motion. There's always a chance if you're on consent that it could get pulled by a member of the HALRB if they have questions about the project. They can pull it onto discussion, which then would mean that I, staff, do a presentation about the application. The DRC, Mr. Davis, will present the comments and the conversation we had tonight. You will have an opportunity to speak for the board as applicants. And then it would be discussed by the board, and then eventually a decision will be rendered by
on the 20th.
On the 20th.
So everybody comes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Right.
everybody
That's
else
gonna
who's
be
on,
fun.
who's on the board. But for now, your item's on consent. So,
Sweet.
I will follow up with you with an email to just explain all of that again, so that you have it in writing and you can reference it. I will be notifying, surrounding neighbors and putting placards up in the neighborhood. That's just standard procedure.
Sure.
And we have to do a legal ad too, so it'll be in the newspaper. Just to notify people because it's a public hearing and we have to. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's on the telephone poles, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I always put
I've
it up
seen
on
it.
the telephone, poles anyway. So you don't have to worry about doing any advertising of your own, we will take care of that. Yeah, so that's the process, but if, you'll get a letter as well, your neighbors will get a letter, so I wanted to let you know now,
Oh,
so
it's a
there
letter.
wasn't any
Physical
surprise.
letter.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
physical letter that we mail, and then the placard up in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they probably won't have much to say because
They're doing all their
they're
stuff.
fixing their
Right.
stone and
Oh, my
all
gosh.
that.
Next door to
The
us.
neighborhood's been once.
Lots of construction
Fixing
going
the
on.
stone.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well then terrific.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Finally meet you.
Yes, very nice. to
And when are you
meet
getting married?
November.
Oh, November, okay.
Yeah, so we've got 5 months now, so, yeah.
That's exciting.
We're very
Now,
excited.
you had some connection with Italy.
I studied abroad in Italy. Yeah.
Where?
Bologna.
Bologna, okay, because I was just in Florence.
Lovely.
And I saw you had some kind of, so you studied in Bologna.
I did.
So historic?
Yeah, so I double majored. I did history in undergrad. I don't speak Italian anymore because I have not used it since then, but it came in handy with architecture stuff.
Sure, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. Very good.
The Italians, they're good with their concrete.
Yeah.
They don't play. They keep those old buildings going forever.
Unbelievable. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank
I'll be
you.
in
Good.
touch.
Nice meeting you. We'll see you on the 20th.
Yes, wonderful.
See you later. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we will move on to our next item, and I believe we have our applicant here. But this is for the Museum of Contemporary Art in Arlington. It is at the, hi, Ria, is that you?
Yeah, Katie and I are both here.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, Katie. Very nice to have you both join us. I'll give a really quick overview of the project, but please feel free to interject and offer up any of your thoughts. I know you all have been working very hard on this one. So this is for Museum of Contemporary Art in Arlington, and it is at the Clarendon School. And you might actually remember, Omari, that this banner project came forward in March of, I think it was 2023. And we've had some back and forth with zoning and trying to figure out what's allowable. And so we finally have a good understanding of what is allowable. And so this meets those parameters. So there's really not that question anymore of what is allowable, because essentially per a zoning variance that zoning found from 1987, they're allowed to put up 2 banners for no more than 12 weeks in a year under specific dimensions. And so on the front of the building. So this is what they came up with. And I will say that I believe at the March meeting, Robert had suggested they look at these, the placement of them here on this brick banding as opposed to like on the columns, which I think had been the original proposal, or over top of the windows. So yeah, if there's anything you all would like to add to that, please feel free to do so.
The only thing I can think of when we talked about this last is just emphasizing that the contractor knows that he cannot drill into the brick, he cannot touch the wood. So the idea is to place it on the first, skip the first row of bricks, and on that first mortar line that's not anywhere near the wood to insert it there. And I requested that they use the hardware that doesn't rust. So it's going to be stainless steel and plastic unless you and anyone else on the committee recommends us use something else.
Okay, all right, perfect. And you're talking about up at the top here, right, with the mortar and the wood, because that's the only part that would be touching the wood up
Yes.
top, right? Okay.
Yeah, he wanted to give it a wide berth, and in this photo you can kind of see it's very small, but there's a layer of brick, of course, right against the wood that they're going to skip, so we don't have to worry about it at all. So it'll be on this kind of the second row.
Perfect. And the intention is to, they're celebrating a big anniversary. The intention is to have the banners up there in conjunction with a lot of the events that they're hosting in the building to celebrate the anniversary of MoCA. And then the other page, we've got a lot closer than it needs to be. This is when the banner would be up for. So they're allowed to have it displayed 4 times a year for a total not to exceed 12. So it doesn't have to be consecutive, but they would like it to be consecutive. So. And then here we've got the placement. So more details about the hardware, how it would be installed. The banner material is vinyl.
That's very helpful. Yeah. Good. I think wow, I think you answered most of my questions already with the presentation. But I was curious, was this all sort of written down somewhere? And it's right here, obviously, and also the time frame too was written up. I don't really have anything else to really ask or add to this. I think it's one thing. It's temporary, which I think is always, obviously a good thing to keep, for the building, obviously. I think that the placement of the banners works. I think it'll also give a lot of also be very visible to any passerby as well as being on a sort of flanking the building like that too. So it's good for the program that is dedicated towards as well. So it's nice and symmetrical. I've got nothing. I don't take any exceptions to it, honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. Yeah.
So then
appreciate sort of the work that went into getting it to this point. So.
Okay. So then the other part of the application is just to, I don't know if you've seen this yet, Omari, but Reclining Liberty is the art piece that they're asking for an extension on. So we've grouped that with this COA as well. Normally, art installations on the lawn in front of the building can obtain an ACOA, so they normally aren't reviewed by the HALRB, but because this is an extension and because it's a piece that's going to be in place for longer than a year, it has to get a COA.
Okay.
But it's already been in place. Its end date is right there, so it's supposed to eventually go to its next spot, next installation in July, but they're wanting to extend it remaining in place until September of next year.
Sorry, I think also I don't think I'll see anything exception with this. It is a lot longer time, but I think that I don't really take exception with it. I think if anybody else has any sort of, since there's no else here to speak for, I think I'll sort of defer to somebody taking off the consent agenda. I think that it can be. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Somebody wants to take it off, they can take it off, but I don't think any exception to the person.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so your COA is going to go on the consent agenda. I will follow up with an email to outline next steps, give some more information about the HALRB meeting on June 20th. But for now, Mr. Davis didn't have any other questions about the project and felt that it was appropriate. So we'll move it on to the next phase. But do you all have any questions for us at this time?
No, this is great. Thank you so much for.
He's great.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And yeah, I will follow up with an email soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you
Thanks,
too.
everybody.
Good night.
Okay, we are moving right along. Do we have Alex online? I believe I thought I saw. Okay,
Alex and
and Jamie. Okay, wonderful. All right, so this is our next and final item. And let me actually here. So this project came, I believe it was in April, with a preliminary review of this accessory building with a setback modification request of the HALRB. So this is their formal application. They've done a little bit of research on their own and kind of looking into things and refining things. So this is what they're formally presenting to the board. This is the house. I just wanted to give a sense of what the house looked like, where the accessory building is going to be constructed. And this is the property lot outlined in blue. The reason I have this up here is because they've discovered very uniquely that this red strip of land here is actually owned by one of their neighbors. So yeah, not sure how that happened, but there's a red strip of land behind them that's adding some distance between their property line and then this property over here. But obviously this plot of land is not developable or like buildable. And the neighbors have no intention of doing anything on it directly behind the house. So wanted to just share that. And Alex, please feel free to add anything else to that if I've missed something. Okay, these are photographs of the backyard. So this is the general vicinity of where the accessory building would be constructed. And this is the site plan. So we've got the house, it's a corner lot, and it would be back here. So the setback modification request is basically per the zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
They have to have a clearance of like 10 feet between the back of the structure and the back lot line. They're requesting basically it's 2 feet from the back line, so they're encroaching about 8 feet into the setback. And so that's the modification that they're requesting, or that's the part that they're requesting a modification on. The sides are all by right. So that's the only part, this rear line back here that would actually need to have a request for modification. Mm-hmm. And just as a reminder, because this is a new building, regardless of whether or not the HALRB decides to utilize their setback authority, you all would still have to review it and determine whether or not the building itself is appropriate for Maywood. And then, in the past, the HALRB has, when they haven't decided to use the setback modification authority, they have said, we find the building appropriate per going through the reviews of other county entities and things like that. So basically, if you all decided not to use the setback modification authority, they would take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals, the BZA, to ask for that modification.
I'm almost confused about this. Is our recommendation for modification, that override the BZA's call essentially?
Yeah, so basically it's part of the zoning ordinance, and essentially what the zoning ordinance gives the HALRB the power to do is to use this modification as a way to retain like historic character in a neighborhood. So typically how the modification has been interpreted in the past is that it's been mostly used for front and side setbacks, primarily on like primary residences, like the main dwelling on a lot, with like additions, or if you want to put a front porch on, just to help maintain the historic setback of the neighborhood. So I've pulled a couple different, I've started working on the staff report for this one. So I've pulled some examples for, to really help give as much context as possible to the board for when they've used the setback modification authority and when they have not. Yeah.
And just like Chris said, do we, I mean, that's kind of the matter, but I'm kind of curious. Do we know what neighbor that strip belongs to? I mean, is it neighbor that's sort of behind? Is it neighbor that's behind them?
I think it's a,
Continuous, or is it?
I think it's a neighbor down the street. Alex, can you clarify that for me? Because I can't remember the owner's name off the top of my head. That strip of land behind the house, is it one of the neighbors that's just down the street on 21st Avenue that owns it?
Yeah, I can jump in here and answer. It's actually owned somebody 3 doors down from us.
Okay,
And we're fully supportive of our she shed, and we have a letter supporting their building on the land.
perfect. Thank you, Jamie.
And then another question, and this is, I mean, and I think we discussed this last time too, so this is essentially, formally, this is an ADU, correct? I mean, it'll be an ADU, it's not.
So it's an accessory building, I think
Yeah.
is how zoning is looking at it, which is different from an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So there is a difference, and I like the difference is something specific, and I don't want to say it in case it's incorrect. But this would not be considered an ADU
Not ADU.
for the applicants. Yeah. But this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
So it's 1.5 stories. They're going to use hardy for the siding, and that matches what's permissible per the design guidelines. Even this like shake siding is going to be hardy, and that's also allowable in the design guidelines. Architectural asphalt shingle roof. The doors are going to be the proposing fiberglass for both of these. So they're going to be like kind of like patio doors, but fiberglass. And then the windows are going to be, I believe, aluminum clad. Yeah, aluminum clad wood.
Is that also per guidelines?
So
I mean, since it's an accessory building rather.
yeah, it's so you'll read all about this in my staff report, but fiberglass is one of those door types that, you know, wood is typically what is highly recommended for everything in Maywood. You are allowed to have fiberglass doors on sheds, not garages, but sheds.
Okay.
And we have had an instance of a fiberglass door being used on a primary building, like one of the houses in Maywood, but it's because the wood door kept deteriorating because of its location. It's very recent.
Yeah.
So it has been used elsewhere, but I think that'll be kind of up for discussion with the board whether or not they feel fiberglass is appropriate here. The more recent, I know this isn't an ADU, but the most comparable thing to it is an EDU in Maywood. And it was a steel clad, I think it was a steel clad wood door, and then a aluminum clad wood door. I have to go back in my notes, but I know that what was approved most recently, they were not wood. And then the windows, the Maywood design guidelines say that vinyl clad, aluminum clad, not permissible, but it has been allowable by the board for accessory. Yeah, so there'll be examples of more information about that, but I think you all have been looking at it on a very case by case basis.
Yeah.
So
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a nice design. I'm just taking a look at the. I guess those little squares at the side of the door. So those are side lights essentially.
yes. We don't have specs for those, but I'm sure that Alex and Jamie could get them for us if we wanted to include those. How do you feel about there being like the 2 doors on the front elevation? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I was thinking the plan, I was kind of wondering about it, but that was more when I was thinking of it being more of an ADU and less of a, because I mean, it's obviously the, look at the size, it's almost the size of an ADU. So if it was that, I'm a little questionable about it, but seeing that as that it's actually an accessory building on site, and that's supposed more closer to a shed / a garage. I mean, I think that the double door is acceptable. I mean, materially, I mean, it'd be preferable to see a wood door there, obviously, but we can discuss that probably later, eventually. But I mean, I prefer the wood door. But the double doors, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I think it makes sense for it being an accessory building. Yeah. I mean, it's not a garage, if it were a garage, it would have a garage door, and in a shed, you may want like a larger door. Larger L having double doors. It's not larger door, but it does make some sense logically, I think. Yeah.
Right.
It's also symmetrical with such too. So I think that's
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the idea being that if it were a dwelling, having a single entrance would
Right.
maybe make visually a bit more sense,
Yeah.
especially given the context of Maywood.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I
I'm
mean,
sorry, you guys cut out for a second there. I was having connection issues. I just wanted to double check what you were saying on, because I'm happy to change the materials for the windows and doors. The one thing on the doors I would be hesitant about is because it's going to be pretty, not very far off the ground, and I just wouldn't want there to be water compromising the structure of the doors and the integrity of the doors, just because they are glass and wood or glass and fiberglass. It would just be easier to maintain, obviously, if they were fiberglass. You wouldn't have the warping that would happen with wood.
sure. Yeah. For that, I mean, I was just saying that I would prefer seeing the wood there, but I mean, but I would say you should. I mean, I don't want to. I'll leave it at that. That's my preference. I mean, I prefer to see
Okay.
wood windows, but I mean, there are different reasons, not to do it, but that's my preference. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I can definitely have the windows changed out. That was, I'm sorry, that was my error this morning. I thought I grabbed the wood window
No, it's
spec
not a
sheet,
problem.
so we can definitely switch those out. I didn't realize the ones I chose were clad. So I think the description didn't match the spec sheet that I was reading, so sorry.
That's okay, not a problem at all.
I mean, I think as far as like just the visual design, I like all the trim work looks nice. I think it will sort of harmonize with the building that's there now. I mean, it won't. I mean, I think in the past we've essentially approved. We've on previous similar projects. I mean, essentially we approved things that look sort of similar to the existing building, even though I know that there's always a tension between. Should the new building look like a completely modern building versus sort of mimicking the existing building? But I think this one doesn't really mimic it. And also, I think in the past we've also been pretty, we've liked buildings that have sort of blended in. I guess that way we've deemed them aesthetically appropriate. I guess be essentially on the same lot with that sort of building. So I think to this one. Fits some mold for that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andy had a couple of thoughts. He didn't do a deep dive, he said,
Sure.
but he had some questions about like placement of windows and specifically with like fire code and things like that. And I know that's been something Mr. Wenchell's brought up before, but I think that from staff's perspective, that should be left up to the appropriate reviewers in the permitting office that will take a look at those things, because the HALRB is always like, first stop,
Right.
and then it goes through the permitting process, and if things have to change, then they do, and they go back for review with amendment. So it's not really up to the HALRB, I guess, to have the knowledge or even be able to determine whether or not it's up to fire safety code and things like that. And I'm sure Alex has had those conversations.
Yeah, so the rear of the building has no windows.
Yeah.
And that's what actually is the closest to the apartments or condos, I'm not sure what it is, behind the property at the backside. And so that would just be reinforced with an extra layer of, it's an extra layer of drywall that goes in to just make sure there's more fire protection so that fire doesn't spread or spreads more slowly.
Perfect.
So that it has time to be put out first. So it's, plus it's already, we've got cement siding, so that's not really burning.
Yeah. You should the site plan one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. I can scroll through the materials at the back too, if you'd like to see those, and I can scroll up to the map if you want to see the surrounding properties too.
And I guess in terms of the zoning, I guess zoning setback amendment here. Just out of curiosity, I mean, would this work? I mean, if essentially you went in by right and placed the building, 10 foot off the property line. I mean, is there space, I guess, on the lot to do that?
It would basically put it right up against where the patio is right now.
Okay.
So it would just not be very appealing, as far as it would be so close to the house that it would just make it would feel different, just because it would be very close to the house then. And I mean, obviously they have the space in the yard because they have a large yard, but I feel like it would be it would almost be like, it wouldn't look as much of an accessory if it was closer, because it would be almost crowding the house in a way, and you're losing that kind of openness of the yard.
Mm-hmm. It's curious as to know if it was even possible. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really, when we were designing it, they chose the setbacks based on what was allowed by right on the side. They just mimicked that in the rear to try to keep it. I mean, that was just sort of the original choice of that number, was just to mimic the side setback in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then we found the extras once we got the plat back, and we found this extra 6.7 or 6.9, I can't remember what it is, feet of the yard. I mean, the fence line actually goes into that space. Into that, it extends beyond her lot line and goes into that strip of land in the back.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, this is an existing fence that was there before they purchased the property. So she didn't know this wasn't her property until we got this new plat.
Okay.
And found that there's this little strip back there. So it was, it was a little confusing on how we dealt with that as far as the placement of the structure.
So then, just to clarify, the structure in its current location is just on the house's property, like it's not going into that extra property, correct?
Correct. It is set. The wall is I believe it's 3 feet. I'm sorry, I don't have my other, I don't have my version up. But yeah, it's to the wall. It's 3 feet from her property line. So it's within her property line, not extending into the no man's land.
Okay,
Strip.
so that encroachment, like the setback modification is just based off of the owner's lot line, not including that extension, right? Like the extension is.
Exactly.
mostly
Yeah,
just-
but it's almost, yeah, that extra extension, that it goes from 6 to 7 feet in there somewhere. And it's, I mean, that's almost putting it into that 10-foot setback. If you include that strip in the back, that would, she would have by right, just because that extra space is there.
Because they don't own.
I know
it.
it's not her land. I know it's not her property, but it's like,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, obviously nobody's building on it. It's her fence is around it. And it's been
Okay,
there for a while.
that makes sense. I wanted to make sure that we had the best understanding of where exactly the setback was being measured from, and that it was being measured not necessarily from the fence line, 'cause that sounds like it extends into that extra strip of land, but that it's from the property line.
Yes,
As it's
it is.
And Alex, I thought that it was 2 feet away from the property line.
It's the overhang.
That's
The overhang is 2 feet from the property line. The building at the back wall is 3 feet from the property line.
Okay, but I think the overhang is what is measured,
Is
right?
that what you're counting, right? For the accessory units? Is that what it counts from the overhang, right?
I think so. I'll double check that, but I think it's, the nearest edge of an eave. So I think that's what it would be, not the wall, but the eave line.
Yeah, okay. That's where we are, 2 feet.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was measuring out the encroachment properly.
Okay, that's interesting.
I guess my next question would there be any other changes that you would want to see, or something that we should have addressed for the HALRB?
In terms of design, I'd say, I mean, for me, no. I think the design is I mean, I think it looks appropriate for what it is. I mean, I know that we had a quick discussion here about the double doors, but again, I think that given what the function is, I think it makes sense. But one thing that might be helpful though would maybe be to give, I mean, if you have sort of the time or sort of the bandwidth for it, would be to actually, you could render what it would look like from the street potentially. I mean, and again, this is more like a wish than a must do.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
This architect does not do renderings. His software doesn't allow for it. So I mean, it would be an additional cost in order for us to do that. I'm sorry, didn't know that was something that you guys were asking for now.
It's not a requirement, but we've had some recent projects have come through where we're essentially seeing some sort of 3D, rendering a 3D image of it would really help us sort of make a sort of a swifter and a better decision on things. So this is kind of it's
right.
Not a requirement, but it helps sort of aid our deliberations. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But we will have obviously the pictures from the streets. We can kind of fill in the gaps there, like what it would look like. So that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's possible, Alex, because I know you and I talked about this a little bit via email and renderings and the limitations that has with your project. But I don't know if it's possible to do something where it's like not necessarily a rendering, but just taking an image of kind of what it would look like and placing it within the space on a photograph. I know it wouldn't maybe be exactly to scale, but it might help in some way with helping them visualize.
Yeah, I think it would. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't hurt. I mean, I think it'd be
I just have one question. How tall is it again in relation to the existing home? I'm just curious to know the heights.
Let me look it up because I can't read it from, oh, yeah, there it is on the, it's on the left-hand side of the page.
Ballpark percentages too. So,
Yeah, it's approximately what, 22 feet tall?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, about thereabouts, yeah.
so it's 1.5 story versus.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
how much larger this is in comparison to the existing home, but because it is a very high pitch roof.
Roof,
Yeah.
true.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And for other ADU type
Yeah.
projects, projects that have been ADUs, I know this is not one of them, but we have had renderings or the building has been pre-existing and they're
Yeah.
just converting it. And so
Right.
that's how the HALRB has been able to see those
Yeah.
kind of in action, so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of the heights, I mean, it may be that it'll definitely help us deliberating, maybe I'm not sure if it'll be helpful or not, but potentially like a section through maybe, or an elevation maybe with existing building, sort of where it is, and then the new structure maybe, where it is too, just to talk about the height issue, because I think that's something I think that even without an image that's.
yeah, the reason I bring it up is just because I'm thinking, I don't think the design is going to be an issue. Kind of
Right.
like what you're mentioning, the design is appropriate to Maywood. I just think that it's the matter of if the HLRB is not comfortable with using their setback
Right.
power, then somebody may say something like, then you just need to shrink the size of building. And I'm wondering if they might then start asking for maybe a lower pitched roof. So now I'm just thinking of questions like the interior of this shed, is it a one story and a half story? Like there's going to be stairs leading up to the roof area, or is it all just open?
There are stairs.
There are stairs. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a studio space, a wet bar, so not a full kitchen, bathroom, and then stairs leading up to a office space and an exercise room.
Okay, so making it maybe a lower pitch is probably not gonna work. So, okay, I just asked that because I think would allow the HLB to understand if you start to change the design of the pitch of the roof or shrink it a bit more, then it's just not gonna make those spaces as usable.
Right.
But again, it is a shed.
Yeah.
So technically a shed. So, I'm just kind of going through what are the many questions we might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and another, just to sort of play off that theme too, is I mean, it would change the way the building would work, but obviously if the building got sort of less deep, I mean, you could avoid the setback modification, obviously, so keep the building where it is on the site, but then you lose obviously a lot of usable space, but square footage, but that's another thing that may or may not come up during the conversations, but obviously it would change the usability of the space.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
But I think that, I think that if you all are really wanting to move forward with this iteration of the building, then, and the HLAB doesn't decide to use their authority for the setback modification, then there are other avenues that Alex and Jeannie could pursue to seek the modification. This is one avenue, and it is a lot quicker than going the other avenue. Not to say it needs to happen or anything like that, but I think it makes sense why it's the first attempt.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, I mean, we know we have to have your approval anyway before going to the BZA. If we had to go through BZA, it just seems, we've had to do this. It seems to be sometimes projects just get approved and the zoning is all done in HALRB and we don't even think about it. And then other times we have to go back and extend things another 3 or 4 months to get through BZA and everything else. So it's just, you know, obviously it's all about time and how much is spent doing, you know, basically going back through review committees. But I will find out about what we can do about trying to get some kind of rendering before the next hearing
Yeah.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also if the neighbor wants to, I guess, give up the property at that location, I mean, then you only need like what, 1 more foot sort of off the fence line, you'd be good to go. So
Right.
probably not possible, but I figured throw it out there anyway.
I'll make your
Well,
announcement. See what happens.
Well, Alex and Jamie, I will follow up with an email and I'll get you a date for the next meeting. It's happening on June 20th. So typically we have Wednesday meetings, but the 19th is Juneteenth and our offices are closed. So we've moved the meeting to June 20th. But I'll follow up with more information about how to attend and what the process is. I know you know what the process is, Alex, but for the discussion agenda and how that will work. And then in terms of any updates with like windows, or if you do find you're able to create some kind of rendering or visualization that helps us understand the scale of the building in relation to what's existing, I would need that by next Wednesday in order to share it. Yeah, next
Okay.
Wednesday in order to share it with the full HALRB in time.
Okay.
But
All
I
right.
will
I will
send an
see what I
email.
can do. I'll see what I can find, if I can find one of the rendering people that can do something, because part of it is the existing house has not been measured. So we don't have the layout, you know, the exact dimensions and all that on the original house to be able to put it into, you know, direct scale. So
Yeah.
I think then if anything,
that's part of it. I mean, that's a whole nother thing to get that into CAD and, you know, so I'll have
maybe
to see what we can do to make that happen.
one thing that might be helpful is if we just have a lot more photographs of the property and the surrounding property.
Yeah.
That might help a little bit more to understand
Okay.
how it looks. So if you're not able to come up with a, you know, does your furniture fit in your room, Amazon scan feature, or, you know, then
Right.
maybe it's just giving the HLMB as much visual as possible to understand the lot.
Right. Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
think, again, if maybe they're really comfortable with the design and they're comfortable with the size of
Yeah.
the shed, then they might feel a bit more comfortable with using their, you know, setback authority.
Okay. All right. I will see what I can do within the next few days to get something back to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Alex and Jamie. We appreciate you attending tonight's meeting and offering us these extra thoughts and having a conversation with us.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
You guys,
Thank you.
Thank you.
take care.
And then that's it. Great.
All right.
Stop recording.